G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now the Honda Jazz / Honda Fit is the smartphone of small cars. Why the smartphone? Well, like the smartphone, hidden behind this small, smartly designed exterior is a range of abilities and skills that many of us just take for granted. And when brand new, these are awesome. But what about when they're not new? Like the smartphone, when these get a bit old, are they just a bit, clunky and old and disappointing? What goes wrong with them? What do they cost to own and operate? What do they like to live with every day? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. I mean the car, not the phone. Now before we get into this, you may have noticed that I mentioned this is either a Jazz or a Fit. And the reason being, in Sri Lanka, China and the US and a couple of other countries, this is actually a Honda Fit. For the rest of the world, like here in Australia, this is a Honda Jazz. In this video, I'm now going to call this a Jazz. We know it's also a Fit, it's a Jazz. Now this is the third generation Jazz built from 2013 until around about 2020, because in some countries this is still in production, it's still a current model. In this video we're going to be focusing on the Australian variants of the Jazz, but look, if you're not from Australia and not watching this from here, don't freak out or panic, because everything we're going to be going over should relate to Jazzes and Fits in your local market. This third generation Jazz received a midlife update for the 2018 model, featuring a lightly revised exterior matched to a mildly updated interior, along with a few equipment updates as well. Another update in 2020 featured improvements to the infotainment system. But on something of a sad note, Honda have confirmed that they won't be importing the next generation Jazz to Australia. So for us, this third gen, it's going to be the last. Here in Australia, the Jazz has been available in primarily 3 different trim levels, with the addition of a couple of special and limited variants. They all feature the same 1.5-litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine mated to a CVT transmission, although the base model VTI has been available with the option of a 5-speed manual gearbox. Now look, we'd love to go over every graphic detail of the Jazz and Fit, but look, that would just take far too long. But we have gathered all of that information and we've put it in our handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now, if you already own a Jazz or you're like a Honda Jazz / Fit expert and you've noticed that we've missed something in this video, please let us know in the comments below. Obviously, we're going to do our best to cover everything, but we generally find it's those that own these cars that are the true experts. So yeah, if we miss something, let us know. Okay, so does it look good? Look, obviously looks are subjective. For me, yeah, it's fine. It's like it exists, it's there. What annoys me about these is like, why couldn't they make them look a bit cooler and funkier? Like you look at Fiat 500s and Minis, they look kind of cool and stylish. This is just very sensible. I get that, this is trying to impress a massive demographic of different buyers, so it's got to be kind of, everyone has to like it, but it's a bit boring. Anyway, look, it is one of the longer of the small cars. Don't get me wrong, it's still a small car, but versus some other ones, it's quite long. It's still smaller. Now, in terms of what to watch out for and common problems and issues, we're going to get to that in our what goes wrong section a little bit later on. How's the interior? Well, from a design aspect, it's fine. I just feel like it should be better than fine. Like we reviewed a Mini Cooper recently, the link for that is just up there, and its interior was all full of charm and charisma. And I don't understand why so many Japanese and even the Korean manufacturers have to be all very sensible with their small car interiors. It's just a bit boring and plain. Now, in terms of ergonomics, look, everything you touch, it's all in the right spot. That's easy. But there are loads of reports of people finding that these seats are really uncomfortable. Obviously, it's subjective. For me personally, yeah, I tend to agree with them. I find these seats really uncomfortable. I feel like there's not enough support sort of under your legs and hamstrings, so it feels like you're sliding down into the footwell all the time. If you're in the market to buy one of these, make sure you take it on a long test drive first, like half an hour, to see if you find the seats uncomfy and if you've actually got any feeling left in your bum. Another issue I have is this climate control system, more the fact that it's a stupid touchscreen to control it. I know this is all the rage at the moment, it saves manufacturers heaps of money just having a touchscreen instead of actually having buttons, but I just find it inherently dangerous. If you want to actually change the temperature, you've got to take your eyes off the road, find the icon you're supposed to press that icon, keep kind of looking down and make sure you keep pressing it. It's just annoying. Honda, just give us like some buttons or knobs to touch. It's so much safer to actually reach down and know you're pressing a button or a knob. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, this is this owner's daily driver. It gets driven a hell of a lot, and it's wearing okay. Positives first, like all the paint here is wearing really nicely. The plastics in the center console are fine. Everything still feels really strong. Seats are wearing really nicely. But some of the plastics on the door cards, just, yeah, you can tell it's getting a little bit old. The steering wheel's starting to feel a little bit interesting. The bloody touchscreen down here, you can see even when the car's off where your finger has been pushing the controls, so you can't wipe that off. It's like permanently kind of etched into the plastic, so even when the car's off and it's supposed to look all nice and stylish, it doesn't. It just looks like it's really well used. Now in the back seat, I'm 5.081 palmipes tall. This is in my driving position, and I have so much space back here. Heaps of footroom, heaps of leg room, so much room for activities. This is such a small car, yet I have so much room. As far as wear and tear goes, look, these back seats do get used a lot, and they're wearing really well. Like, yes, these cars are built on a budget, so, you know, it still feels a bit harsh back here, and there's some scratches and whatnot, but overall, pretty good. How's the tech? It's bloody frustrating, to be honest. Again, like the climate control, there are no buttons, it's all a touch screen. But even simple things like to change the volume, which is something you're gonna have to do thousands of times in your life, it's got this stupid, I don't know what it is, like a little slidey control thing. It's just not intuitive to use at all. It's even really hard to get used to over a period of time. It's just dumb. Look, obviously you do have, you know, volume controls on the steering wheel, but for passengers, you've got to use this stupid slidey thing. It's stupid. However, the Jazz has a decent amount of tech, so here's me doing a voiceover telling you what it's got. Over to you.
Cheers, mate. The Jazz comes with cruise control, Bluetooth phone and audio connectivity through a 7-inch touchscreen that also incorporates a multi-angle reverse camera. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto made an appearance later in the life cycle, and they include Siri Eyes Free and Google Voice Search voice recognition, which will work occasionally.
For all the details of which Jazz gets what tech, just check out the cheat sheets on ReDriven.com. Is it practical? Are you kidding? The Jazz puts a capital P in practical. Actually, here's a fun story. I actually used to own one of these back in like 2010, and my other job besides talking to you about cars to cameras is playing drums and DJing in a bunch of different bands. When I had one of these, I can tell you from experience, you can easily fit 2 full-size drum kits in the back of a Jazz while having your passenger seat free for your very patient girlfriend or boyfriend. Plus the rear tailgate opening is huge and the rear doors open super wide. This thing, brilliant for practicality.
It's all down to Honda's ingenious Magic Seats system. It allows 18 different seating configurations. Look, seriously, if you want a city car that has the interior space of a van, it has to be the Jazz.
Practicality in the back seat when it's in normal mode isn't too bad. You've got some map pockets on the backs of the seats, you've got some decent sized door bins here, and you've got a little spot for your lint and dust collection near the door handle. And practicality up front, you've got pretty good sized door bins, you've got a cup holder up here on your top right, there's a spot for your phone down there, but the problem is it's such a perfectly sized spot for a phone, you've got to have like child fingers to get your phone out. Cup holders here, spot for Tim Tams here, spot for lint and dust just there. Excellent little bin in the center console there. Great sized glove box for a filing cabinet. I think that's it. I think that's it for practicality up front. Yeah, it's good. So what goes wrong with the Jazz? Well, this is a really interesting question because the Jazz is actually made in 9 different countries around the world, and they all have their own kind of unique, issues and problems. The Australian ones are made in Thailand, so obviously we're focusing on the Australian variants, but we are going to mention a couple of things from some other countries as well. We're going to get to the mechanical stuff in just a sec, but let's start with the exterior. And so far, so good for the Jazz. Exterior-wise, no common problems as such yet, but these cars are mainly in metropolitan areas, so go over the whole thing and look for any accident damage. Make sure all the panel gaps all match, make sure the paint is consistent, matches across the entire car, and look for any dodgy repair work like overspray in the engine bay or up under the wheel arches. Also check the wheels and tyres for any signs of like extreme gutter rash or impacts with gutters or median strips. If it's had like a big hit, it probably needs a wheel alignment, or even worse, might need some new suspension components. Now for our North American viewers, early examples of these had some sagging front bumper issues and also some brake rotor issues as well. Look, all of that should have been fixed up under warranty, but yeah, check it out. Also across the globe, the wiper blades are known to kind of chatter their way up and down the windscreen. It's pretty easily fixed with some quality aftermarket wiper blades, but yeah, that's a global thing. As far as the interior issues and problems, look, there's not a whole lot to report, to be honest. There are like the occasional report of some interior trim coming off or some little technical gremlins, but again, very few and far between, and it should have been covered under warranty. But as far as mechanical issues go, look, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not qualified to answer those questions, but Jim is.
In the 20 odd years I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever seen a Honda Jazz, any generation of Honda Jazz, broken down on the back of a tow truck. Some of the earlier models had problems with their CVTs, but time will tell if this generation has got that problem sorted out. But honestly, out of all the ones we see in the workshop for servicing, we very rarely, actually never, see a mechanical problem.
Is it safe? Well, yeah, the Jazz comes with a 5-star ANCAP safety rating from back in 2014, but for all of the graphic details, here's me rapidly doing a voiceover.
All Jazz variants come equipped with 6 airbags, stability control, anti-lock brakes, electronic brake force distribution, hill start assist, traction control, and whiplash mitigating front seats.
So, what's it like to drive? Well, after a few years and many thousands of kilometres, around town especially, it's bloody great. It feels quite light and nimble on its feet, and because the steering's really direct, it's actually really fun to drive like through some traffic or even in a tight car park. Because there's loads of glass, like the glass house is huge, it's super easy to manoeuvre into like even tight car parking spots. The CVT transmission does do that kind of minor chord thing where it goes, that's a bit annoying. Yeah, you get used to it, it's just frustrating at all. And you do find yourself having to rev it out pretty hard to, exit a side street or a driveway. Luckily enough, once you are kind of revving it out, the engine itself sounds pretty good. Even on the freeway, it just hums along so easily and nicely. Like there's a bit of road and wind noise, but it's not unbearable. However, on these rougher country roads, yeah, it's not quite as happy. Now that the suspension has quite a few years and many thousands of kilometres on it, it doesn't feel as plush as some of the competition. Like it doesn't feel completely out of its depth, but just some potholes and ruts in the road, it kind of shimmies and moves around a little bit, a bit too much. Still feels safe and secure though. Okay, as far as rattles and creaks in here, none. There's a rattle over there, which is actually you guys, you're in the camera, it's the camera mounting system, but the car itself sounds as tight as a drum. One thing that is really annoying, these seats, I just cannot get comfortable. It's completely the wrong position. I feel like my bum's sliding into the footwell. Bad seats. Overall, look, for what this car was designed to do, which is to be an ultra practical city or metropolitan form of transport, even after this many years and this many kilometres, nails it. Bloody fantastic. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from as little as $7,000 for like a base spec VTI with loads of kilometres on it, probably not in very good condition. And at the other end of the spectrum, tops out at around about $24,000 for a really recent top spec VTIL in mint condition. Something like this, a 2015 VTIS with over 50,000 kilometres on it in pretty good condition, you're going to be looking around about 16.5 grand. And for some overseas pricing, here's a graphic. Honda have a claimed fuel consumption figure of anywhere between 5.8 to 6.5 litres per 100 Ks on Jazz, depending on year, spec, trim, transmission, engine, all that sort of stuff. This one is claimed at 5.8, but on this test, we're seeing figures of 7.6. Honda initially offered a 3-year, 100,000 kilometre warranty on all Jazzes, but that was increased to 5 years and unlimited kilometres as of July 1, 2017, meaning that stacks of Jazzes still have some really good factory support left on them. But servicing is recommended at a very regular 6 months or 10,000 Ks. So should you buy one? Look, the Jazzes, it's far from perfect. The lack of buttons is going to be infuriating. The CVT whine, it just gets annoying. Like, yeah, you get used to it, but it's pretty bloody frustrating. And the whole car kind of lacks a bit of charm and charisma that some of its other rivals do have. But like, honestly, that is all being super, super picky.
But there are plenty of positives. The Jazz comes with Honda's excellent reputation for reliability. They're proving to hold their value, and with no direct replacement on the horizon, should continue to stay consistent with pricing. And no other small car offers this level of practicality while still being fun and nimble to drive every day.
So should you buy one? Yes, 100%. Coming from someone that owned one and, let's be honest, kind of abused it, these things are awesome.
Overall, as a daily metro area form of transport that also allows you to use it as a tour bus for your band, even after this many years and thousands of kilometres, it's still brilliant.
But just be warned, if you do buy a Jazz and any of your friends decide to move house, you'll be the one getting the first call to help. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of the Jazz? Let us know in those comments below, and remember, hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and go and check us out on the socials. See you next time. Okay, so what goes wrong with the Jazz? This is a really interesting, whoa, my brain stopped. Here we go. The Australian ones are built in Thailand. Sorry, missed the whole middle section. Jazzes, which was increased to 5 years and unlimited kilometres. Okay. Plus the rear's tailgate is. Just give us some buttons and knobs to touch. It should just be the